Grumble, grumble, grumble. And, yep. Alright. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with this. This is getting very, very frustrating. Anyways, I am back. Um, but yeah. Um, so no, Reign of Tears. Again, my biggest problem with isn't with Reign of Tears per se. It's that I want Reign of Tears. I want my card to be able to do more because if there's not a land I care about blowing up, I don't want to be sitting there with a card that, like, it's Reign of Tears is never going to be useless, but I want it to be useful. You know, so for an extra mana, for example, I get Befoul. You know, the same thing, except I also have the ability to hit a non-black creature. Um, destroy target land or non-black creature can't be regenerated. I want something that's got the flexibility to do what I need it to do. So, again, Reign of Tears, not bad per se, just I'm playing Commander, I want to be able to do more. Muckrats, it's the only reason it's in the 30-cent range is because it's a hard to pin down card with the rat type, which is a semi-popular type. I hope so. It's a semi-popular type. Um, because relentless rats and rat colonies and plague rats and all that other jazz. But beyond that, eh. King's Assassin. If you want another Royal Assassin effect, to be fair, if you want another Royal Assassin effect, start looking into Visara the Dreadful and Avatar of Woe. Granted, they cost a lot more than 3 mana, but you can kill anything with those. Mind Rot. If you're playing discard, I would rather somebody play this over, a lot of the discard 1 effects. Um, like if you're playing Thoughtseize, Duress, etc., that's one thing. But if it's just target player discards a card, unless it's attached to something else, play Mind Rot or something of that nature instead. Although I'd rather you play something like what's it called? Siphon Mind, I think it's called. Yeah, Siphon Mind. Each other player discards a card. You draw a card for each card discard this way. So chances are, everyone you're drawing 3 cards and everyone else is discarding a card. That would probably do a lot better in general than a card like Mind Rot. Endless Cockroaches. When it dies, return it to its owner's hand. Um, I'm a little torn on how I feel about this specifically. I'm not saying I think it's bad. This does not save you from mill. This does allow you to, this will keep coming back, but it won't save you from being milled out. So for an effect like that, I would much rather have, if I can find it, I'd rather have an Undying Beast for something like that. If that's not a thing that you care about, then Endless Cockroaches is fine. Cruel Tutor. This is basically Vampiric. This is Vampiric Tutor, but worse. Because it costs an extra 2 mana and it's sorcery. They. But it's. It's like they took Diabolic Tutor, which wasn't out yet, cut a black mana off. Tutors are the same spot as counters and land destruction, methinks. No, I see. I disagree with that. See, where you have to compare it to like I'm when Counterspell came out, it came out all the way back in like alpha. Same with same with land destruction. Stone Rain and Sinkhole came out in alpha, and to this day they still feel to me like they're costed about right. The comparison for tutors would be Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor does not give me that, like, especially when you have Diabolic Tutor. I think it's Diabolic Tutor that I'm thinking of. Yeah, Diabolic Tutor, which originally came out in, what was it? Odyssey? Yeah, Odyssey. Came out all the way back in Odyssey. But there's, that's what is this, 2001. That's 8 years difference. I feel like they have decided since then that Diabolic Tutor is the appropriate cost for that effect. Just like Concentrate and Harmonize are about the right cost for that kind of for the effect of drawing 3 cards. 4 mana is about right. You can do it for less, but there's going to be something attached to it. So Cruel Tutor is like you cut a black of Diabolic Tutor, which again wasn't to come out yet. The card goes on top, you lose 2 life. That feels a bit weaker than Diabolic Tutor, but it is a spell that you can cast off a Dark Ritual and not have to worry about anything else. So, I don't know. But yeah, to me, an actual, like, Demonic Tutor does kind of feel undercosted because every time they try and reprint a version of Demonic Tutor, you know, here's a 2 mana way to search up any card. There's always, unless they specifically reprint Demonic Tutor himself, which does occasionally happen, but not, I wouldn't exactly call it often. It's often at, like, mythic rare in some special set. The last time they printed it at even The last time they printed it at rare was Ultimate Masters. And prior to that, you're looking at Divine versus Demonic. But yeah. But it's like, you can get it at 2 mana, but at like Mythic Rare, etc., etc., etc. If they're not doing that, they're giving it to you with something else attached to it. Diabolic Intent, additional cost, sack a creature. What's the one that's in uh Profane Tutor? You know, 2 mana plus 2 additional turns. They've pretty much decided that 2 mana is too much to search for any card. 3 mana, maybe. Because 3 mana, I think you get Grim Tutor nowadays, don't you? Yeah. 3 mana, you can get Grim Tutor, which they originally printed in Starter 99, and have since turned around and said, you know what? That's fine for Standard. They put it in Core Set 21. I feel like they feel 4 mana is the right cost for searching for any card. And then you get Gravedigger. And Gravedigger, perfectly fine playable card. I've got it in at least 2 or 3 of my decks, I think. Oh man, I'm gonna have to try and fast forward through these. Um, but yeah, Gravedigger, 2 mana, comes into play. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It feels a little overcost in the creature department, but I think they could get away with doing this at like double black +1. Let's try and zip through red real quick. Desert Drake feels overcosted, but when you look at the fact that it's red and it has flying and no drawback, probably about right for a very long time. The closest comparison to something like this would be Dragon Whelp, but if you put too much mana into Dragon Whelp's flying ability, you lose it. This is actually not too bad, and if I'm playing Drake Tribal, I'm probably playing it. And if I'm building around smaller, flying red creatures, I'm probably playing this too. What is it? Impetuous Sunchaser? My favorite cheap flying creature for red. 2 mana for 1/1 flying haste, attacks each combat if able. Throw some kind of fun aura on it and start swinging the air for 3 mana or for 3 or 4 damage every turn. But yeah, Desert Drake, not terrible bad. I'm not thrilled with it, but not terrible bad. Highland Giant, it has the giant type. 4 mana for 3/4. You can do better. We've gone through that routine before. You can do better. Raging Minotaur, 3/3 with haste for 4 mana. Feels right. Plain, simple, nothing fancy, and feels about the right cost, at least at that point. You're playing Minotaurs. or you're playing Berserkers, don't be afraid to consider throwing that in your deck. Burning Cloak. Um, what was it? Not Sea Red. What was the other one? Tolanoli's Crown. 2 mana, enchant creature. 1 damage to enchant creature. +3/+0 and trample. 1 mana, sorcery. +2/+0 till end of turn. 2 damage to that creature. This is basically. Burning Cloak is basically this set's version of Immolation. This is this set's version of Immolation. You look at it from that perspective, this is about right, this is about fair. You're commonly going to be looking at this as a shock. But yeah, if it's a decent size to begin with, like a Raging Minotaur, you're now swinging for 5. It's fine. Lizard Warrior? Eh. Would not bother. You should be able to find 4/3s nowadays. You're playing Lizard Tribal? You're probably got better options. Craven Giant, 4/1, can't block for 3 mana. I believe nowadays you've got straight up 4/1s for 3 mana with no drawback. And if you're willing to put up with a drawback, you should be able to get at least a 4/2 out of it. Or, you know, a 3/3. Actually, I think you can get a 3/3 with no drawback. Also, depending on what you're looking for, you can get a 4/1 for 2 mana in red. If you're just looking for stats. Raging Cougar, you're basically looking at, I want to say Goblin War Buggy. Am I looking at the wrong card? Close. What were you? Goblin Chariot. Goblin Chariot's the one I'm thinking of. 3 mana, 2/2 haste. I keep thinking it's Goblin War Buggy because it's got a similar. Yeah. So this is basically a reskinned Goblin Chariot, except it's got the cat type, which is relevant to some people because if you're playing Cat Tribal, you want something more like that. Hulking Goblin, 2 mana for 2/2 that can't block. Used to be fair for a very long time, and they started making better and better cards, and now you can get what's effectively a 2/2 with haste for a single mana, as long as you cast it off like an artifact. You know, like if you look at Pauper, you've got Goblin Tomb Raider that can get, you go turn 1, Great Furnace, tap it for red, drop Goblin Tomb Raider, attack with a 2/2 with haste because you control an artifact. It's a 1/2 base that just happens to get bonuses if you've got an artifact. Yeah, well, yes, they like to intercept instead. Pillaging Horde. Pillaging Horde was the set's version of Barbarian Hordes, I think it was. No, not Barbarian. What what were you called? Power equal 5, toughness equal 5, ID equal red, set Polduvian Horde. When it enters second, unless you discard a card at random. We thought that was going to be the new, the second coming of Jazam Jin, which at that point was worth like $150, $200. It's now worth like $1,200. But we thought this was going to be the second coming of Jazam Jin. It wasn't. And then, when it enters, second unless you discard a card at random. Unless you like random discard, you don't want to play this. That being said, if you build your deck around random discard, then this is fine. And also because this is at 4 mana, you're playing red, chances are you've already dropped a bunch of stuff by now. You're probably pitching stuff you don't care about by that point. Also, if your hand is... Oh, actually, second less unless you discard a card. Nope, you have to have at least one card left in hand. You can't bypass that. Fire Imp. Comes into play, 2 damage to target creature. It's a shock. It's half a shock, because it can only hit creatures. Attached to a 2/1 for 3 mana. Yeah, okay. It's about right. Again, not anything to write home about, though. You're playing Imp Tribal, you might have to. Minotaur Warrior. Oh. This used to be Heirloom Minotaur, which was 2 red plus 1 for a 2/3. Now it's 1 red plus 2 for a 2/3. Heirloom Minotaur getting kicked to the curb 4 years after it got introduced. Poor guy. Yeah. So if you're playing Minotaurs, you run. If you're considering wearing, you better already have Minotaur Warrior in your deck. If you're considering playing Heirloom. Goblin Bully. 2 mana for 2/1 with no abilities. Again, nowadays you can get 2/2s, and you might even be able to swing something better than that for 2 mana. Lava Flow. One of my favorite removal spells. Got turned into a common in Masters Edition 4, so therefore, if you're playing with just commons, like I tend to do, 5 mana, kill any creature, do not care how big you are. It's a worse version of Fisher, but Fisher is also really good. Fisher does not allow regeneration and instant speed. This is basically like, this is Befell before Befell existed. In a different color, but Befell can't hit black. This can hit anything. Scorching Spear. 1 damage to any target. Why are you playing Scorching Spear? Even Shock is twice as good as this. Have you got basic lands available? No. Yeah. Don't bother. Fire Snake. I prefer this by a long shot. When it dies, destroy target land. Sacrifice it to some effect. It's only got 1 hit point, so it can die to a lot of things. Bring it back with something else. Sure. Scorching Winds. Scorching Winds, so much better. So much better than Scorching Spear. 1 red. Hey, if you're the one being attacked, that's when you can cast this. 1 damage to each attacking creature. Yes, there's better versions of that. Sometimes in colors that shouldn't get it. But yeah, play that before Scorching Spear in a heartbeat. Forked Lightning. 4 damage split however you want. I like this card. I like the cut of its jib. Yeah, I would, if I'm looking for, my problem is when I play red, I really want spells that deal damage. I play the spells that deal damage when I have to, when we're talking Commander. When we're talking other formats, I have no problem because you have a lower life total. When you're playing Commander, you pretty much have really big stuff that you have to deal with fairly quickly. So you commonly want answers that don't care how big the thing that you're dealing with is. Forked Lightning in a 20 life format? Sure. I'll deal 2 to that, 1 to that, and 1 to that. Yeah, because I think Arc Lightning, is it Arc Lightning only deals 2? No, Arc Lightning is 1 less mana and 1 less damage. Oh, Forked Bolt. Two damage for 1 mana. So you'd rather play Forked Bolt, but Forked Lightning being able to go 4 to that, or 3 and 1, or whatever, is convenient. You want this in your sideboard or something. But in a I feel like for what am I thinking? I feel like for Commander, having a copy of something like this is okay, but I'm not thrilled with it. I'd just make sure I can kill a creature outright. Fire Tempest, 6 damage to each creature and each player, also known as Inferno. Just plain Inferno. Which was 2 red plus 5 instant, 6 to each creature and each player, 6 to each creature and player, same cost, instant versus sorcery. You want to be able to deal with a bunch of stuff at once? Fire Tempest is a good starting point. Fire Tempest, Inferno, 6 damage will kill so many things. Keep in mind that it exists. Fire Dragon comes into play. Damage to target creature equals the number of mountains you control. Cheat into play with something like Through the Breach or, reanimate it or whatever. It doesn't care. You have a 6/6 flying dragon that goes, cool, I've only got 3 mountains. Fine, I'll hit this for 3. Shrug. Or hard cast it late in the game and go 9 mana, 9 mountains. That can take 9. Chances are Fire Dragon is going to come and play and kill a thing. Consider this like a red Ravenous Chupacabra. just a really freaking big one. And it's got the dragon type, so it's got that going for it. Wall of Granite. Um, a barely slightly easier, barely slightly weaker Wall of Stone. Excuse you. Give me this one. I like that art better. Not saying this art's bad. I just like the other one better because it's also what I grew up with. So, 2 red plus 1 for 0/8. 1 red plus 2 for 0/7. Also, you've got Wall of Ice, which is probably a better comparison. 1 green plus 2 for 0/7. 1 red plus 2 for 0/7. Play them both in the same deck and just so many headaches. If you're playing with walls, I might prefer the green one just because you've got easier ways to get it out on turn 2. But yeah, Wall of Granite's fine. If you're playing Wall of Granite, Wall of, you know what? At some point, what do we got for decent walls? Sort by toughness. Wall of Stone is a 0/8. Wall of Granite is a 0/7. Wall of Heat is a 2/6, which is great. Wall of Earth for 2 mana is a 0/6. Flowstone Wall is a 0/6 for 3 with a Flowstone ability. I'd probably be willing to give up the extra point of toughness of Wall of Granite for the Flowstone ability. Wall of Fire. Oh wow, Wall of Fire, 3 toughness less than Wall of Stone, but it has fire breathing. Wall of Diffusion 0/5 can block as though it had Shadow. Ether Membrane, when it blocks a creature, and it has Reach. Oh wow. If I want to build with a bunch of red walls, there are some really good walls that have more than 4 toughness and less than 4 mana to cast. I would probably play most of these if I'm going for that kind of reach. Yeah, and Wall of Granite would make the cut because there's like 9 of them, and I think they'd all make it in. Rain Assault, destroy 2 target lands for 6 mana. Literally double Stone Rain. And you're at 6 mana, chances are you can find 2 lands that you want to blow up. Especially if somebody's about to go off with Thespian Stage and I can't remember what you call it. It makes Merit Lage. Dark Depths. Somebody's about to go off with that? Kill them both. Volcanic Hammer. Lightning Bolt obviously is much better. Lightning Bolt is much better. Lightning Strike is better. Searing Spear is better. So many things are better than Volcanic Hammer. If you're playing Volcanic Hammer, it's because doing 3 damage for less than 3 mana is really important to you. Find something else. There's always a way. Find something else. And if you're using it for creature removal, why? Just no. Use a braid. Use anything else. Just no. Boiling Seas. Um, you know when you play this? When somebody's playing with Harbinger of the Seas. If you're expecting somebody to play with Harbinger of the Seas, you throw Boiling Seas and you've created your own Armageddon of sorts. Basic lands get to stay around, everything else gets blowed up. Thundermare. 6 mana for 5/5 with haste, comes into play, tap all other creatures. So it's going to get through for damage. Yeah, enjoy. And it's a horse, which is a creature type people are going to care about. It's also an elemental, less common, but if you're playing elemental tribal, you want this. If you're playing it, yeah, just find more homes for this deck. Really, find more homes for this. Lava Axe? No. 5 damage to... No. If you're going to deal 5 damage with something that's worth spending the cost on, to deal 5 damage. Devastation. Destroy all creatures and lands. This is Wrath of God and Armageddon rolled up into a single card for 7 mana. If you want to blow shit up and blow shit up real good, Devastation. It is devastating. Yeah. Lava Axe is on the same pedestal as like Stormcrow and Squire. I mean, Stormcrow beating out Squire, I'm like, why? How? What? But yeah, Stormcrow, as bad as it is, found a card to beat out. But yeah, Devastation, you want something along the lines of, whatchamacallit? You want something along the lines of Star of Extinction, but just make sure you kill stuff? Devastation. Raging Goblin. 1/1 with haste for 1. Sounded good for a long time. And they slowly found ways to, what's the word I'm looking for? To power creep it, and power creep it, and power creep it. And it's just, it's not worth, it's not worth the sword it's carrying anymore. Blaze. If you're going to play Blaze, start off with cards like Fireball. Blaze is the simplified version of this ability. Find anything else that does something similar. If it's red plus X, X damage to any target, there's always a better version of it. Last chance. Last chance you might be able to get away with playing nowadays, now that Panoptic Mirror is legal. But you need to combine this with something that stops you from losing the game. If you can do that, then Last Chance is incredible. If you can't, you're kind of going to be up the creek. But if you can do that, you can get infinite turns and potentially win the game that way. Treetop Defense. This is the Porto version of What was it you were saying earlier, also? Spider Silk Armor? I think. This is the portal version of that card. 2 mana instant, again, only if you're the one being attacked. Creatures you control gain reach till end of turn. Again, there's better cards for this effect. However, being able to do this at instant speed is kind of hilarious. Mana value equal to color equal green. Oh, Terror Defense. Oh, wow. You want Tower Defense. If you want this ability at all, you want Tower Defense. 98% of the time. It is rare that you're going to be okay with just Treetop Defense. If you're playing mono green, Treetop Defense might be okay, because mono green tends to have a lot of creatures that are really big for their cost, like triple green for a, for a 4/5, or, 5 mana for like a 10/10 or whatever. So something like that, Tower Defense and Treetop Defense can basically be the same card at that point if you're building that way. If you're basically building undercosted fat in a mono green deck, either one of these will work just as well. And suddenly going, oh, by the way, yeah, chlunk. I'm going to block with these guys now, and your creatures are going to die. What? Plant Elemental. When it enters second, unless you sack a forest, 2 mana for a 3/4. There's at least one deck I can think of that this wants to go into, and I believe it's Titania, who wants your lands to die. 2 mana for... There's a couple ways to build this. One, you use something like Titania. You ideally want her out first. Then you play the Plant Elemental. Your land dies, you get, I believe it's a 5/3 as a result. 2, you play with cards like Torpor Orb, because it is a, when it enters ability. That'll shut down the ability, and you end up with a 2 mana 3/4. Not a bad deal either way. 2 different ways you can play it. Thundering Worm. When it enters, sack unless you discard a land card. Similar idea. Apparently, Green and Portal doesn't mind getting rid of its lands. For something like this, though, you need extra lands to be able to play with. But you do that, well, you get a 3 mana 4/4, which is fine nowadays, because I think you can get a 3 mana 3/4. Yes, you can. You get Thrashing Brontodon, which is slightly harder to cast. 2 green plus 1 rather than 1 green plus 2, but you get a 3/4 where, with not only no drawback, but also an ability that lets you sack to blow up a thing. Play cards like that instead. Thundering Worm, eh. For that cost, you should be able to get probably a 3/4 no ability. Probably, you know what? Let's look you up real quick. Um, Power greater than 2, toughness greater than 3, mana value equal 3, mana colon 2, ID equal no, color equal green. Oh, Blood Contaminator gives you a 4/4 trample, toxic 1 when it deals combat damage to a player proliferate. I'm gonna skip anything that flips. Uh, go away. Defiant Great Maw. It's a 4/5. Eh. 4/4. Choose and discard land card. That's basically the same card. Oh, Fear of Exposure. That's cute. You get a 5/4 trample. Additional cost. Tap 2 untapped creatures and or lands you control. So you can tap 2 creatures, 2 lands, or 1 of each. Krotek Nestguard. 4/4 defender. Pay 3 to give it the ability to attack. Lovestruck Beast, the 5/5. Can't attack unless you control a 1/1. Lurking Roper. 4/5 doesn't untap normally. Whenever you gain life, untap it. Skips the Mega Theorem, it's crap. Pugnacious Hammer Skull. If you can give it Vigilance, it's just silly. When it attacks but you don't control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it. Ronus. Can't attack or block unless you control another creature power 4 or greater. That's easy to deal with. Sentinels of the Nameless City, 3/4 with Vigilance for 3. When it enters or attacks, make a map. Simian Grunts has Flash but also Echo. Wild Mammoth, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, whoever's got more creatures gains control of Wild Mammoth, and it's a 3/4. Wayward Swordtooth, once you've got 10 permanents, he'll be a 5/5 that can attack or block permanently for the rest of the game. And you can play additional land per turn. So there are some options at green +2. And you are looking at a rare. I'd probably find about 3 or 4 before I started looking at Thundering Worm and deciding whether or not I should play it. Moonsprite. Basically a reissue, shall we say, of Scrib Sprites, but for 1 extra mana, which makes sense because green is not supposed to like flying creatures, so paying a little extra for flying makes sense. But unless you're basing your deck around cheap green flying creatures, or unless you're playing, a green fairy deck, that could also make sense. I generally stay away from this. I had Scrib Sprites in my mono green deck, which was designed to beat down with flying creatures, and I had a couple Scrib Sprites because it didn't do enough. Moon Sprite is a worse Scrib Sprite. Rowan Tree Folk. If I see this, I'm like, I would take 1 less power and give it reach. I want Giant Spider instead for this cost. One less power, give it reach, so much better. And nowadays, you can get a 3/4 with reach for 3 or for 4 mana. You might even be able to do it as a tree folk. Needle Storm? Oh, you want to be able to zot a bunch of flyers and, you know, like just deal enough damage to start killing off like mid-range angels and low-end dragons and stuff. Here's Needle Storm for you. My only problem with this card is it does not also hit players. What? What? Yeah, I'm been trying to slowly build a mono green burn deck, or at least sketch it out. And I would love to put Needle Storm in it, but it doesn't do enough. It only hits. Pardon me. It only hits flying creatures. It does not hit players. I need to be able to hit players. Primeval Force. This is the set's version of Force of Nature. And for comparison, four green plus 2, 8/8 trample. Upkeep 8 damage to you unless you pay quad green. One less green to cast. No upkeep cost, no trample. Sack it unless you sack 3 forests. So you're going to go behind on mana a fair bit, but you're going to have an 8/8 in play. Does not have trample, but also doesn't have a quad green upkeep. You handled that when you sacked the 3 forests. That's basically covering the upkeep for the next X amount of time. But I mean, you know, there's ways around that. Again, if you want to be silly, you've also got the Torpor Orb option. Beasting does make it into my mono green burn deck because it's a green spell that can deal damage to players. Not exciting, not a card I would recommend for most decks, but if you're willing to do something weird, you've got that. Bull Hippo, 4 mana for a 3/3 Island Walk. I do not mind this card. I like seeing creatures that have like opposing landwalk and other such similar abilities, especially in colors that don't often get them. You know, green commonly got forest walk, unblockable unless they control a forest, but didn't often get any other kind of landwalk. Oof. Natural Spring, 5 mana, gain 8, target player gains 8 life. It originally said you gain 8 life. Why they changed it, I don't. Because the Tempest print, which came out 97, which came out later the same year, said you gain. Or said target player gains, rather. Tempest had a bigger print run than Portal 2nd Age or Starter 99, so 9th edition went with that one. Okay. Don't bother. If you want to gain a bunch of life, Nourish gives you 6 life for 2 mana, and it's an instant, so you can throw it on Icecrown Scepter. You can do. Why don't they just. Um. The. What, for Natural Spring? The. this being reprinted in Tempest, um, I think they were trying to decide which way they wanted to go about it. And Tempest, they didn't have Oracle per se, because I think that came out during 6th edition. I know they had documents that said here's the current, here's how it should be handled now. But there was more, I feel like there was more flexibility prior to 6th edition. And Portal was, again, the Portal sets and the starter sets were, first of all, aimed towards people learning the game. Second of all, were not expected to be tournament legal, so what they actually said didn't make as much difference. Whereas Tempest was going to be tournament legal. Uh, I mean, this came out. This was going to be sitting in limbo basically for 8 years before Wizards of the Coast decided, you know what, we're going to allow people to play these in tournament. So I think when they looked at it for Tempest, they're like, it's not really a big difference between, you and target player. We'll just do it that way. And then Portal Second Age, and Star 99, like I said, had a lower print run. So when they gave it back to us in 9th edition, they just, well, Tempest had the bigger print run, we'll go with that. I don't know. I would fire a message off to somebody like Mark Rosewater and ask there. But yeah, Natural Spring, you want an effect like that, you can do a lot better for 5 mana, and you can get almost as much for like half the cost. In fact, in Invasion, you had, I think it's Heroes Reunion, 1 green plus 1 white. I think it's an instant. Target player gains 7 life. Again, about half the cost. Not worth it. Redwood Treefolk. This averages to basically a 4/5 for 5 mana. I know when I was considering a vanilla deck some time ago, this crossed my path, and I'm like, I know I considered it. I think I ended up passing on it because it was like at 4 plus, at green plus 4, there's like a a healthy sized batch of options, and it's like, what do you pick? What do you pick based on? And so it took some effort, and I think this one, I believe this one finally went on the chopping block, but it was not an easy decision. I remember that. Charging Rhino, 5 mana for 4/4, can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. In other words, you can only block it with with 1 creature at a time, which means it basically has to be chump blocked at best. Yeah. You want to make, like, you get this thing trample, and you are going to get through for damage most of the time. It's like the only thing this thing is missing is some way to give it trample. That's easy enough. You're playing green. Jungle Lion, a 2/1 for single green that can't block. It's a cat. I think that's probably going to be its biggest selling point. Is it's almost Savannah Lions in green, and was printed at common. I think if you're going for aggro green and you're willing to start as low as 1 mana, go for it. When I sketched out my Boros aggro deck, if I can find it. Why do I not see you? There you are. When I sketched out my Boros aggro deck, um, I started at 2 mana. I wanted I wanted power at ideally I wanted power and toughness to at least be equal to its mana value. I wanted at least one to be bigger. At 2 mana, I was okay dealing with like 3 1s. Um, but as a general rule of thumb, I was looking at, I wanted creatures that had, like, for example, Trusty Companion. This is bigger than a 2/2. Weapons Trainer, 2 mana, it's bigger than a 2/2. Blood Rage Brawler, it's bigger than a 2/2. It's a 4/3 that comes down, play, discard a card. But if you're willing to start as low as 1 mana, Jungle Line is not an unreasonable starting point. Willow Dryad, again, green being a commonly played color, 1/1 Forest Walk for 1 is pretty good. Oh yeah. And keep in mind, like, we're looking at cards that are currently like 28 years old. But it's also not a matter of, it's also not just power creep, like Forest Walk. How often do you see land walks these days? You know? It's not really a thing you see anymore. Hey, Aku! Aku, fair warning. I'm probably logging off within the next 15-20 minutes. Or at least I'm going to be trying to be. Because this has gone longer than I expected it to. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I'm about halfway through. Oh yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware. But, I mean, like, my best analogy that I can think of for Jungle Line these days is Savannah Lines. But that is, to be fair, in a different color. What do you have now? Oh, wait, isn't there, Are you in my commons one? Visual spoiler. I often find the visual spoiler a lot more useful. You weren't one, were you two? No. You must have been in Golgari. Visual spoiler. This one, Sky Shred Elite. That's what I was thinking of. If you're playing an aggro deck and you want to start at 1, Sky Shred Elite, really, really good because it's so easy for that to be a 2/3 for 1 mana. But to be fair, that was also an uncommon. Oh yeah, you have like 1/1s that get +1/+1 as long as X or something of that effect. But yeah, Willow Dryad, you don't really see Landwalk that much anymore, which is a shame because that's. I guess if they're doing that, they're trying to say unblockable. And green really doesn't get unblockable. Green gets trample in lieu of unblockable. That's how they handle that. Elite Cat Warrior. 3 mana for 2/3 with Forest Walk. Feels about right. And if I'm building around Forest Walk, and again, green being a commonly played color in Commander, would, yeah, I, there. Build off of her. Miri Cat Warrior. Use her as my commander. And then start playing with, you know, start playing with green creatures that have first strike or forest walk or vigilance. And yeah, Elite Cat Warrior would fit nicely. Whiptail Worm, 7 mana for an 8/5. Again, if you're playing vanilla, yeah, though it's harder. It is harder to find that in green. It's not impossible, but it is harder to find that in green. Usually, you're dealing with trample instead. Whiptail Worm, I'm pretty sure when I was looking for 7 mana vanilla creatures, this was actually pretty high up my list of options. Because that 5th point of toughness actually means a lot more than that first appears. Deepwood. This is Portal trying to play with fog. And again, only if you're the one being attacked. Anaconda. Again, 3/3 Swamp Walk. You know, I put that in the same camp as Bull Hippo. So, admittedly, the Anaconda is going to be better because swamps uh, swamps are more commonly played than islands in general in a format like Commander. Nature's Cloak. Compare this to Hidden Path, and this is just. Hidden Path is like 6 mana, 4 of which is green. Green creatures have Forest Walk. This is half the cost. 3 green being cut off. It's only a one shot, but it's also green creatures you control. This is like, oh, you now have a forest in play. Cool. I cast this, I send all my guys in to attack you. They're all unblockable because you have a forest now. Congratulations. Of course, that's even more fun when you played something like you have a Maya Dryad and gave them one of your own. Uh, yeah, this is you go in for an Alpha Strike to finish the game. Spined Worm. There's better than this now. Uh, Probably even if you're playing Worm Travel, you can find better. Fruition. Gain 1 life for each forest on the battlefield. Oh, I know. Yapamaya Critical Growth. How many lands are in play? 27? Cool. I'll pay 1 green. I'll gain 27 life, thank you. Unless somebody goes like in response, I cast Armageddon somehow. You hold this for a few turns. By turn 3, everyone's got, there should be like at least 11 lands in play. Gain 11 life. You want to gain a lot of life at once? Play Fruition. Winter's Grasp. Compared to what I felt about uh, Reign of Tears earlier, this feels right when you're dealing with green. However, again, for an extra mana, lots of flexibility. Uh, Bramble Crush and Creeping Mold come to mind. Also, for green +2, you do get Beast Within, which kills any permanent. Sure, at instant speed, they get a 3/3 token, but you killed you killed one big threat that they had on the board. So, but Winter's Grasp, again, compared to the red and black versions, feels the right cost. That may also be from the fact that turn 1, like even in alpha, you had Birds of Paradise, Wild Growth, and Land of Boreals that you could play on turn 1. Turn 2, something like this was easy. Trivial, I think, is the word I'm looking for. So, sure, making it cost slightly more, not a thing most people would care about. Monstrous Growth, this is an instant nowadays. I believe with additional bonuses. What's Titanic Growth? Yeah, Titanic Growth is like the Titanic Growth is the instant version of this and the base simple version of it. You need Monstrous Growth, you play Titanic Growth. But if you need Titanic Growth, there's other things to play instead. Guerrilla Warrior, there's now there's at least a 3/3 by now. They've had that since they printed Nessian Courser. Maybe if you're playing, Ape Tribal or something. But pass. Alluring Scent. Good old lure. All creatures must able to block target creature this turn do so. If you're, lure, venomous fangs, venom, anything along that lines, if you want more of that effect, alluring scent is an option. For is it Nemesis Mask? All creatures able to block a creature do so. I think alluring scent might be just far enough below the, how many cards do I need to be able to do this? That. You're probably not playing it. Mobilize. Untap all creatures you control. Hey, also, does this C play at all in Pauper? Vitalize is the same thing at instant speed. So nobody's like, I need to be able to do more of this. What was it I was thinking of? Dramatic reversal, I think? Oh, wait. It's because it's instant. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. Although I could see throwing this in my commons only elf deck. Pay a green, suddenly tap all my elves for an extra like 15 mana. Sylvan Tutor, we know about. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle, and put that card on top. It's the sorcery version of Wild Tutor, or wow, Wild Tutor. It's a sorcery version of. I can't remember what the hell you're called. From Visions, right? Uh. Worldly Tutor. Wow. But unlike a lot of the other Portal reprints, this is perfectly fine compared to the other ones. Like Vampiric Tutor is meh compared to Vampiric Tutor. Um, Personal Tutor doesn't do as much as Mystical Tutor. This is fine. And then what else? Come in place, search for a forest, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. Does not have to be a basic forest. Yeah, okay. Buck and a half. Um, alright. And that would be it. Alright. And then next week, P02. Which feels wrong. It feels like it should be P2A. But P02. Let's just take a quick scan. 112 cards. Some of these lesser played cards actually seem pretty decent. But if I remove this, what have I got for a thumbnail? Ooh, Goblin Matron. Nope. Temporal Manipulation. Temporal Manipulation just might be it. Because realistically, yeah, the only normal-ish set it was ever in was Portal Second Age. Might be Temporal Manipulation. Doing something last minute isn't so bad when you can make that minute last. Lol. Sleight of Hand I know is a reprint. Goblin War Strike I think we've already covered. Ancient Craving I always liked, but it did get a reprint in... Wait, did you not? Really? I thought it got a print somewhere in a normal set, but I guess not. Angelic Wall, Swarm of Rats, equal the number of rats you control. Is expensive because it's rat, and people like building rats. Bear Cub. I just might do Bear Cub. Anyway, that's it for tonight, people. I am off, and for those that missed it, um, congratulations to Delexikov for coming in first this evening. That being said, I am out of here. See you guys next week. And yeah, next week I will be doing Portal's Second Age. And hopefully I can get through that a wee bit sooner. Alright. Adios, everyone. Good night.